So, I'm going to do my labor and delivery video. I know it's been like so long. Like I think the last time I uploaded I was like 30. How far along was I? And I'm going to show you the baby first because I hate when people don't show their baby, or they're like, oh, I don't want to show my baby. Sorry, my boobs are showing because like I have a lot of milk right now, so it's kind of hard to contain. But I'm going to show the baby. And I don't even think I said, oh my god, her hair's crazy because I just gave it away, but her hair's crazy because I just gave her a bath and she had a hat on and I just took her hat off. So anyways, me and Saul had a girl. Her name is Sadie. So let me get my face out of here. Is it gonna focus on her preciousness? Look at her hair. She is a week old. A week and like a couple days. I don't know what day it is, but she's a little bit over a week old. She'll be 2 weeks this week. So this is a problem with my videos, is I don't ever write anything down to remember. I think you guys already know, but I had been having pain since like since 28 weeks. I was having, it's when like your bones loosen up too early. They're supposed to loosen up but later on in the pregnancy, but mine loosened up at 28 weeks, my hip bones, and it hurt really bad, like to turn over in bed. But on January 25th, I got checked and I was 1/2 centimeter dilated, people. Like I was really happy because 1/2 centimeter is a lot for me, because I don't dilate by myself. I never have in my other pregnancies. But he said that the baby was high up, but he could feel her. And I got my strep B test and it was negative, I'm assuming. And I also was telling my doctor that I had been leaking a lot. Like every single time I went to the bathroom I had to change my underwear because I was leaking a lot. And this was at like 35 and 36 weeks that this happened. So he checked me for ruptured membranes, but he said that everything looked good. So I left that appointment and I was just happy that I was 1/2 centimeter dilated. And I was like, okay, something's happening, because I had been having a lot of Braxton Hicks, and every single time I had Braxton Hicks I thought that they were the real thing, and I was like, oh well, it was just like my belly tightening. That's all I felt. Then I was like, oh, okay, I can like do this. I think maybe I was just being dramatic with my other pregnancies, like it didn't hurt that bad. But I was wrong. Those were definitely just Braxton Hicks. They were not the real thing. And I also kept losing my mucus plug. So at 36 weeks and 4 days was the first time I lost some of my mucus plug. I lost it at 2 in the morning, and I was like freaking out because with Jonathan and Sophie I lost my mucus plug, and then that was it. Like I had them that day or the next day. Sorry, my kids are like not here right now and I think they're gonna be home soon. But anyways, yeah, I was freaking out and I was like, I lost a piece of my mucus plug, but it also could have been because I had an appointment and he like checked me and it bothered my cervix or whatever. So I thought I was like, things were gonna happen, but I was only 36 weeks and I was wrong. So 37 weeks went by and I kept losing my mucus plug, but I think it just kept like rebuilding itself, because it does that if you lose it too early. Like it'll just rebuild itself. It doesn't mean that you're gonna go into labor. And I was due February 20th, for those of you who don't know. At my 38-week appointment, my doctor said that, he's like, did I tell you were dilated last time? And I was like, yeah, why? Like I knew what he was gonna say. And he's like, well, you're not dilated anymore. And I know that you can't like regress, like you can't undilate, so he must have just, I don't know, but I wasn't dilated anymore. And he's like, the baby's still high up, you're not dilated. And that was just discouraging. I was like, okay, I'm scheduling a C-section right now. Like I scheduled a C-section because I was convinced that this little girl wasn't going to come out on her own. I was like, my body just doesn't know what to do, It never has without help, and I was just really worried and really done being pregnant because I was in so much pain. Like, I just wanted him to be like, hey, we can induce you like this week, but that's not what happened. So that was a Thursday that I went to that appointment, and it was like I was just in pain and I was done. And also during all this, like from like 37 weeks on, when I was losing my mucus plug, the baby stopped moving as much as she had been like the rest of my pregnancy, and like even like the day before. And I knew I wanted to go to the hospital one night because I just felt like I just wasn't comfortable with the like amount of movement that I wasn't feeling. Like, she was a super active baby in my stomach, and then all of a sudden one day she would move, but you could tell that she slowed down. But I didn't go. I just told my doctor at the appointment, and I should have went to the doctor's because something could have been wrong. But because I know that she had the cord wrapped around her neck. She had it wrapped around her neck like my whole pregnancy. Yeah, February 8th at that appointment, my 38-week appointment, I was just bummed. Like, I was so done that I scheduled a C-section. People, like, nobody wants a C-section. But on February 13th, I went to the hospital because I was just having like contractions. They were painful, but now that I know, like it refreshed my memory what real contractions are like. They weren't like, I wouldn't even have went to the hospital for those, but I did go anyways, just because I was worried about the baby's movement anyway. So I'm like, let's just go to the hospital and get it checked out. So me and Sel went to like Jack in the Box. We went to go eat first. That's how you know you're not in labor, because we went to go eat first, and then we like sat in the car, and I was like, I don't know, I don't really want to go in, but he was like, no, let's just go. And we ended up going in. We ended up going to the hospital, and we were there from 11:30 at night to 2 in the morning. They were like monitoring me because my contractions were so close together, but they weren't like painful. I think that once the nurse checked me, she's like, well, you're not dilated, but she checked me, and after that my contractions were like 1 to 2 minutes apart, and I was like, what is happening? I drank water, and I laid there from 11:30 to 2, so I wasn't like up doing everything like crazy. And then they sent me home just because I wasn't dilating after like all those hours, and that was another bummer. I was like, this isn't gonna happen. Like, I was just convinced that the only way that this baby was gonna come out was through a C-section. The 14th, on Wednesday, I went to work. My stomach was so low. Like, my coworkers were like, your stomach looks different than it did yesterday. Like, the baby is in a different position or something. And I was like, I know, I can feel it. And I like the 14th, I was having a little bit of contractions like throughout the day, like at work. And I would they would kind of like stop me, like what I was doing, and I was just like, I just had to like breathe through them, but they were like so small, and I was just done counting contractions and trying to figure out if they were real or not, that I was just letting them happen, and I wasn't worried about them. So that was the 14th. And then the 14th at night, I went to bed. Saul was at work, so he got home, he closed, so he got home kind of late, so we went to bed pretty late. It was probably like 12. That's like when we usually go to bed. And around like 3, I only know this because like I checked my phone like just to see how much sleep I was getting, because I had to go to work the next day, and I just like to know how much sleep I'm gonna be able to get. So around 3:40 in the morning on Thursday, I was like, my contractions were kind of waking me up, but not very often, probably like every 15 to 30 minutes. That's when I realized, that's when I checked my phone, because I was like, hold on, there's been like a couple contractions, let me check what time it is. So I checked my phone at 3:40, and I was irritated that I wasn't going to get any sleep, and I had to work and be up at 7 in the morning to take my kids to school. February 15th at 4:28 in the morning, this was Thursday. I was like, okay, let me just time it. Even though I was like, I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna be super exhausted, but let me just time it. If these contractions woke me up out of my sleep, then they must be real, because my Braxton Hicks contractions, I would get them at night and I would like just be like uncomfortable. I would be uncomfortable in bed, but I would be able to sleep through them. And then I would wake up and I'd be fine. And now there's something in my eye. These contractions that I was timing at 4 in the morning were about 5 minutes apart. And then they were like 4 minutes. And then they were 3 minutes apart. And they were super like, would take my breath away. Like, they hurt. Not as bad as the real ones, but they hurt. So after they were like 3 minutes apart, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get ready, because I want, you know, I was gonna do my hair and I was gonna do my makeup and stuff, but I was like, I should have did it right then and there, but I was like, you know what, I have time, because labor, like, my labors are very long, they're not fast at all. So I just like laid there, I bounced on the ball, and then finally I decided to go to the bathroom. I think this was like 5 in the morning, 5 something. When I went to the bathroom, I sat on the toilet and I just felt like something came out of me. It was really nasty. I was like yelling for Saul. I was like, come here now, something is coming out of me and I don't know what it is. And it was, ugh. Okay, when I thought I lost my mucus plug at 37 weeks, I didn't see anything yet. Like, that was nothing compared to what came out of me. And this has never happened to me before. I don't think I've ever had a bloody show. I've just had my mucus plug come out, and then I was like, I went to the hospital because I thought that was labor, and it was for me for my last 2 pregnancies. But yeah, this was a lot, and it was bloody. And so I've never had a bloody show, so I like freaked out because there was blood with it. And I was like, okay, now I'm convinced that this is like the real thing. Like, I'm having a baby, like, today. I should have videoed this whole thing going on, but I was like so in shock that I was actually having a baby, because in my mind, I was like overdue. I was like 3 weeks overdue. So after I lost my mucus plug and I had like the blood, I was like, I'm not getting ready. I put my hair up and I was like, let's go, like, now, which I shouldn't have done. I still had time, but my contractions were kind of painful, and I was like, I must be dilating if I am like losing my mucus plug and I'm having contractions. So I just wanted to get checked. We left my kids here with my sister, and I just told them that like their tia would come pick them up and take them to school. So we said bye to the kids, and I was just so excited for them. Like, I think I was more excited for them this whole time than I was for myself, because I just wanted to see, like, they've been waiting for her for so long. And anyways, so we left. We went to the hospital, and sorry, sister. I scared her. Anyways, we went up to labor and delivery, and they checked me, and I think she said I was 1 centimeter or half a centimeter when I got checked. They were like timing my contractions, and I was having contractions, but by that time they were like super slowed down. Like, they weren't even like, they were like 8 minutes apart, like 7 minutes apart. So I was like, really, that's gonna happen to me right now? Like, they're gonna stop, my contractions are just gonna stop, and this is all gonna be like, it's not gonna happen. So I was still having bloody show at this time. So when the nurse went to check me when I got there, I was like, I'm just letting you know, it's really bloody. There's a lot of, so I like saw her glove when she pulled it out, and it was like covered in mucus plug and blood, and she's like, oh yeah, you're right. He walked around because I wasn't dilating after they checked me. After like an hour, I think they checked me, or an hour or 2, and I wasn't dilating. So I walked around for like 45 minutes. I still wasn't dilating. So they sent me home, and that was just like, I was like, this is just never gonna happen. But I was really hungry, so I wanted to go home anyway. I was already planning what I was gonna eat in my head. I was like, let's go. We left the hospital, and then we went to Walmart because I was gonna try to walk around and I ended up buying a bunch of stuff, so I was like, we should just go to the lake, because if we go to the store, you're gonna end up buying everything. We came back to the house, and I like was cleaning, and then I ended up taking a nap, which was good because, but also I was just kind of like upset because I really thought that this was gonna happen, and I ended up coming home, and like, if I can sleep through my contractions, they just like stop when I wake up, and then I don't have any more, and it's like false labor again that I had experienced. Like, I had been experiencing false labor my whole pregnancy from like 28 weeks up until I had her at 39 weeks. So yeah, anyways, I came home and Saul slept because he was exhausted. Like, we had been up since 3 in the morning. Like, I had been up since 3:30. It was noon by now. It was like almost 1 o'clock by the time we got home. So I'm glad that we actually got to come home and sleep, and I finished cleaning up, because the whole time I was in the hospital in triage, I was like, anyways, the whole time I was in the hospital in triage, sorry, my camera just like cut me off. I was like just thinking about how dirty my house was. It wasn't even like dirty, but I had like a fork in like the sink, and I was like, I can't have the baby come home to that. When I woke up, I was like, babe, we have to like go and walk, because my contractions are like super slowed down. Like, I don't even know if this is gonna happen today. So we left, and then we got food at Heartsease. We just like ordered out, because at this point, like, by the time we had like walked around some more and I had like been awake for a little bit, my contractions got really intense. I wasn't screaming, but I was like making a really uncomfortable noise because how much pain I was in. I couldn't help it, and I don't like to be dramatic. Like, if I can help it, I'm just like trying to, you know, keep the noise down to a minimum, and just keep, like, I don't want people to look at me. It's really embarrassing. But even in the car, like, I was trying not to make a big deal because we were driving, and I don't like people, like, I don't know, people can see when you're in your car. But I had to like hold on and just like clench, and it was really it was really embarrassing. But I'm sorry, I was in pain like a child was trying to come out of my body. So I ate some soup, and I was just like bouncing on the ball, but ooh, nothing was helping me. Like, nothing was making me comfortable. Obviously, it was just contractions. They were gonna be painful. Geez, and you can feel them coming on, like contractions. Like, I don't even know how to explain the pain. Like, you have to go through it. But like, you can feel them coming on, so you'll like feel the bottom of your stomach tightening. At least this is what it was like for me. Like, I felt the bottom of my stomach tightening up a little bit, and then I'd be like, oh no, babe, like, I'm gonna get one, it's coming. And I was like, every time I would almost, like, I would feel one coming on, I'd be like, uh-oh, and I'd like hold on to something. I'm like, babe, rub my back or something. I was like trying to stay home as long as I could, because I knew that they would just send me home if I went back and I wasn't like dilated anymore, or my contractions weren't like close enough, or nothing was happening. So I stayed here for a little bit longer, and I think around 4 o'clock we went back to the hospital, because, and before this, Saul was gonna make me walk like around the civic circle, and I was like we got there, we parked, and then as soon as we parked, I was getting a contraction. I was like, I cannot walk. You don't understand. Like, I can't walk through this pain. And so he's like, okay, whatever, let's just go to the hospital. By the time we parked in the hospital parking lot, I was in so much pain. I was in tears. I was crying, and I don't cry because of like being in pain. Like, I've had 2 kids, and I don't think I've ever cried while I was in labor. So we checked in again. I was like, hey, it's me again. You know, I've been here like every day for the last week, but this is real this time. And so I checked in, and I went upstairs, and then they were like, oh, hey, like, you came back. And they expected me to come back, but they didn't know when. It had been 7 hours since I left the hospital at this point. The nurse checked me, and she said I was at a 3.5, almost a 4 centimeters dilated. So I was just happy that I had made some progress, because I was not about to go up in there and be like, this isn't happening today. So she had the monitors on me. So every time I was having a contraction, she was like, just breathe because the baby's heart rate is dropping. I had a sinus infection, so breathing for me was not an option through my nose. Like, I was clogged, congested. Her heart rate was dropping super low every single time I had a contraction. Like, there was a point where I stopped hearing her heartbeat. I was on my back and she did not like that. Like, her heart rate would go super low. I had to go through my whole entire labor on my side. The nurse ended up telling me that the only reason that I even got admitted that time that I went was because her heart rate was dropping, and if her heart rate would have been fine, then they would have just sent me home again, which I don't get because I had progressed and obviously I was in labor and I just wanted the epidural. But anyways, she asked me if I wanted the epidural and I was like, yes, like I want it right now, because I was like in so much pain that I was like, I hadn't even been admitted for like 5 minutes before I was like, yes, I want the epidural. And then she's like, okay, let me call. But I didn't think she was gonna get it this fast, but she's like, okay, let me call the lady, the anesthesiologist, and she'll be here. And I thought like, okay, she'll be here in a few hours, and no, she just like popped in the room with all her stuff. So I must have been like 4 centimeters dilated when I got the epidural. No, I mean, like sometimes it stalls your labor, so I was kind of worried about that, but I was more worried about me being in so much pain that I couldn't breathe through my contractions, and my daughter's heart rate was going like down like super dangerously low. And then I also didn't want to end up in a C-section, because they will give you a C-section if your baby's in too much distress, which is what they did with my daughter. The lady came in with her stuff to do the epidural, and when she did it, I wasn't having a contraction. Like, my contractions are like kind of far apart, like 5 minutes at this point. So she was doing it while I wasn't in any pain at all, and I wasn't having a contraction, and it hurt so bad. And with my other two, I loved the epidural. I couldn't even feel it. It just felt like a little like poke that you get like in the arm for like a flu shot or something. I don't know. But I'm not really that big of a wimp for like shots or anything. But this was really bad, and I don't know if I was just the pain was all magnified for me at that point, because I was like so uncomfortable anyway. But even my IVs hurt. I had to have 2 IVs put in because I was high risk, because I had a C-section before. So those were super painful. I couldn't move my hand, so I was like this the whole time. Like, I just couldn't bend my fingers, and then you have to sign paperwork for the epidural. So I was like literally moved so much. Like, she was putting it in the numbing, even the numbing, they give you like a numbing shot first. So even that one, I was like, ow. Like, I moved my back, like I arched it back, okay? So obviously I didn't care if I was going to be paralyzed, because I wouldn't have moved if I did care. And she went in to do the actual epidural. I moved again. Like, I kept going like this, like arching like away from the needle, which you're not supposed to move ever, like at all. But I did, okay, and I'm not paralyzed. But that's super dangerous looking back. And then she's like, okay, if you feel sharp pain in either of your legs, then tell me and I'll stop. And I was like, I feel a sharp pain, and I feel it in my right leg. I'm definitely gonna be paralyzed after this. Anyways, I felt sharp pain in my right leg, so I don't know what that means, but now I have like nerve pain on that side, and it's like I felt so much better after that. But I also was uncomfortable because now my back hurt. I had all these monitors on me. I had 2 IVs, and I couldn't move my hands, and they were kind of thinking of starting me on Pitocin after I had my epidural, because my contractions were getting like kind of spread out, like further and further apart. Not super far apart, they were like 5 to like 7 minutes apart. And we wanted them to be closer than that, obviously, so that I would be progressing somewhat. And then after a while, I'm glad that she didn't start me on Pitocin like right away. I had a really good doctor. It wasn't my doctor that I had been seeing my whole pregnancy, but he went on vacation like I think that day or the day before. And I didn't even say this, but I got my membrane stripped on Tuesday, and I had her on I went into labor like Thursday, super early in the morning at 3 in the morning. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But I was convinced that the membrane strip wasn't going to work. But maybe it did. I don't know. Maybe it was that. Maybe it wasn't. We can never tell because you just never know what actually put you into labor. Maybe she was just ready to come out. Sister, tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. Why did you come out? Was it the membrane strip? Did he bother you? Okay, she's not going to talk to us today. At 10 o'clock, they were just like, no, we're not going to start you on Pitocin because you're actually progressing. Like, my contractions started to be like 3 minutes apart. But they were getting closer, and I could still, like, kind of feel them, but not as intense as before. My epidural kept wearing off, and my epidural only ever works on the left side of my body. No. The right side. Yeah, I couldn't feel my right side. But I thought that was just because I was paralyzed, but I wasn't working. I wasn't worried about it because I couldn't feel anything, and that's all I wanted. So I'm like, I think the epidural, either the epidural's working only on my right side or I'm paralyzed on my right side, but either way, I can't feel anything, so I'm fine with it. Honestly, I didn't care if I felt every single contraction. As long as I didn't feel the baby coming out of me or people like going up in there with, you know, every single time that they checked, I was fine. So I did end up getting my catheter right after my epidural, which I was worried. I didn't want them to put in the catheter before I got my epidural. I was like, that hurts. I've had it done before. But they put the catheter in after you have your epidural, so you don't even feel that. At 8 p.m. after my epidural, I was 5 centimeters, and she said I was stretchy. So she's like, I can kind of, like, it's just melting away. You're like out of 5. Basically, I can make you be like a 6 or 7, but I'm not going to do that. So at 11:30, I was 6 centimeters. I was like, okay, like I only dilated 1 centimeter. At 11:40, I was having contractions 2 to 3 minutes apart. So they were super close, and my body had done this all on its own, which I was really proud of because in my last 2 pregnancies, I haven't progressed at all ever on my own. Like, I've needed Pitocin, I've needed my water broken, I've needed a C-section. But this time everything was happening on its own, except my water hadn't broken yet, and they weren't going to break it because with my daughter Sophie, my last pregnancy, she's the one I had a C-section with, they broke my water, and she wasn't tolerating labor after that. So they tried to fill me back up with fluid. After that didn't work, after she still just wasn't having it, they took me back for a C-section with her. So we weren't going to break my water. Good thing that they read my past history. Finally, she came back in and she checked me, and she's like, okay, you're 100%. And I was like, what does that mean? Like 100% face? Like, okay, good, but how many centimeters am I? She's like, no, like you're 100%, you ready, okay? And I was like, babe, like in my mind I was like, oh my god, I'm not ready, like this, like I can't push, I can't do it, I don't want to do this anymore. But you know, it was a little too late for that. I should have thought about that 9 months earlier. My water still hadn't broken at this point when she checked me, and she's like, I can feel it, like it's bulging, like when you have a bulging bag of water. And she's like, oh, I don't even want to check you again because I'm afraid I'm gonna like break it, and we don't want that. Like, they didn't want to break my water. And so she went to go get the doctor, but the doctor was in an emergency because she was about to do a C-section, and everything, like all of a sudden everybody on the labor and delivery floor had to birth their child like right then and there. Oh, she's so precious. Look at her. She's precious. And as soon as she left the room, as soon as that door closed, my water broke, and I felt it. Like, I knew it wasn't pee. I was like, maybe I'm peeing myself, but I had a catheter in, so looking back, it couldn't have been me peeing myself because my pee would have just went into the catheter. So I felt like liquid coming out of me, and I was like, babe, go tell her my water just broke and I have to push. Like, as soon as my water broke, I felt like pressure down there, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna push. And he's like, just wait. And I was like, I can't wait. Like, once you have to push, you have to push. And the crazy thing is, I was gonna wait at home until my water broke on its own so that I would go into the hospital. That was like my plan all along. I was like, I'm not going in until my water breaks because I don't want it to be false labor. But if I would have done that, I would have birthed the child in the car because she was born 9 minutes later. The nurse came back in, with like another nurse, and she's like, I have to go get a doctor. She's gonna get you a different doctor because now your new doctor is in an emergency. Like, she's gonna go do a C-section, so she has to get you another doctor, so we have to introduce you to her. I'm like, there ain't no time, like, I'm gonna push right now. She comes back with the doctor, the one that I had been working with that day, and she's like, okay, well, I have like a couple minutes before I have to be back into the C-section. So everything kind of went quickly from then. And when I had to lay on my back again to push, they didn't know how like long she was going to tolerate that. And at one point, like closer to the end of me pushing, I didn't hear her heartbeat anymore. So I just like, I wasn't even waiting for a contraction anymore, because you're supposed to wait for a contraction and then push through that contraction. I wasn't even waiting. Like, I was like, I'm just going to push because I don't hear her heart anymore. When I was pushing, you have to like curl into your belly, and when I did that, it hurt so bad because her whole body was on the left side, because I'd been laying on my left side this whole time, and it just hurt. It hurt my rib. She was all up in there. No, sister, it's okay. Sister, I'm not talking about you. I am talking about you. I only pushed for 9 minutes, and then she was out, and I felt her, like, I've never felt this before. I didn't even feel it with my son because I was so out of it, and I was so exhausted for being in labor for so long with him that I just didn't even feel this feeling, I guess. But I felt her leave my body. It was so weird. I felt like just the pressure was just gone when she was out, and I was like, oh my gosh, my whole body felt better. I wasn't even sick anymore at this point. Like, everything left my soul and my body at once when she came out. Like, it was such a good feeling, but it was kind of sad because now I didn't have a little tiny thing in there anymore. And right when she came out, Saul was like, it's a girl. Like, it was so cute. But he said that he was so happy, even though he wanted a boy the whole time, when he saw his little girl. And I wanted to cry, but I also didn't want to be like a little biatch, so I didn't cry. Yeah, this was probably the best labor and delivery I've had, and it was the one I was most worried about because I thought I was gonna have to schedule a C-section. I thought my uterus was gonna rupture. I thought we were both gonna die. Like, I had so much anxiety about that. It's also been the hardest recovery, but I'm gonna actually do a like 1 week postpartum or 2 week postpartum video and newborn update soon, because I have a lot to say about that, and sorry, my freaking boobs. I think a lot of things that I could be able to help people with. A lot of questions, because I'm just like going through it and I'm like, is this right? Is this not? But I went to my doctor's and he said everything's fine, so yeah, I'm gonna talk to you guys about that later. So make sure that you guys have my notification bells turned on, because if you don't, then you just like subscribe and it's for nothing, because it doesn't even update you. It doesn't even tell you when I post videos. I'm gonna go because my daughter's like starving now and she's not about to have it. Say bye-bye. Say subscribe. Where are you getting blonde hair from, sister baby? Sister baby? Who has blonde hair? Oh, Daddy's in trouble. Yeah, we will talk to you guys in our next video. Where'd your binky go? Oh, it's in my boobs. If I forgot anything, it'll be in my labor and delivery vlog. Bye, guys.